Slow as smooth, smooth as fast. Meet the operator. This small batch, artisan-made, medium dark roast espresso coffee. Get yours now at monkeywerxus.com or scan the QR code on your screen now. All right. Hey, welcome, folks. Mil Spec Ops Monkey here. Listen, this is going to be your SITREP. It is October 2nd, 2023, and we are coming to you from the Monkey Lounge here in the great state of Texas, and it is an active day. So we're going to kind of get into all the deets. We're going to talk in detail about this whole draft thing. I think it's coming, and I say that because based on historical data that we've gotten, and, within the last year or so, some of the trends that have been set in terms of metrics with the military, and I don't see how they're going to avoid it, especially with this war that's on the horizon. And I say that because I don't see anything taking us away from that other than maybe a Trump coming in and squashing all of this and working deals, because that's the kind of guy he is. So, but let's kind of get into the deets. Let's jump over here. If you would hit that like, subscribe, bell for notification. It helps the channel out tremendously, and we do sincerely appreciate it. All right, so let's look at this currently up right now. If we look at the KC-135s and the B-762 Pegasus, 767-200 Pegasus, those are going to be your air refuelers. Those are good indicators that we have fighters up in those regions where you see these. Notice there is a big centralized focus right here in the middle of the United States. That would be because you probably have fighters coming in from areas around that in here to fuel and then back out. Now, also notice that we've got two ships sitting down here on the southern border. My understanding is because there's some stuff going on the other side of that border that we want to have some type of fighter presence for, okay? And then you get down here as well. Notice that Lucky 13 is showing out between southern Florida and Cuba. We have an R-135 we'll look at here in just a minute as well that went down to this general area, which tells me there's something they are concerned about down here. All right. Now we get up here to the eastern seaboard. Notice these are out over the water. Okay, so now just take a mental note. You've got these out over the water, and you got this one down here over the water. So something along this eastern seaboard here has got their attention, and we've got probably a lot of fighters up out over here too, okay? All right, now let's pull this back just a little and get a total number. I've stripped out the air refuelers because, whoo, man, there is a lot of them up today. We're sitting at around 162 trainers that are sitting. You can just see they are stacked on top of each other here in both Texas, outside of the Panhandle, across Alabama, Birmingham, that kind of area, and then a couple out here off the coast. Nothing really up here near Pax River, which is kind of surprising, but boy, they are all over the place here. That's just your T-38s. Sorry, that's your Tex 2s. We're going to hide those, and then if you look at the T-38s, same kind of deal here, just again, lawn darts. All right, now we're going to hide those guys. And then the only other thing that really caught my eye were these. This is going to be your Spec Ops boys, or the Uber for the Spec Ops boys. This normal down here in the Panhandle, that's where they kind of operate out of. If you're not familiar with it, that's what their aircraft looks like. It is a Dornier little D328, and it's what the U.S. Air Force flies around under Special Operations Command. And this one, the only one that's kind of staggering out away from everybody else. Of course, you've got one that's down near Guantanamo Bay. Now, just between you, me, and the fence post, I will tell you I've seen this guy coming in and out of Guantanamo Bay a little more frequently lately. So anyway, just a data point for you. We're going to break out of that. And let's get into the watch list today. Now, this was a little earlier, but look at the amount of survey flights that we have up. Everything on your screen right now, survey flights. And this is the time of year for surveys around October. So I would imagine you're going to see another push looking at ground data using these survey flights for cleaning up all the stuff that they weren't able to get before. Those are 2 Phoenix airbirds, probably coming out of China Lake there in Southern California. That's going to be border stuff, Texas DPS. And then we've got this. That's going to be an E3 Sentry, probably working a lot of that congestion with those trainers that are up. And then a couple of flights there. The one that catches my eye on this end is not just the Q9 drone to the north, but the Doomsday plane that's up. And then notice here, these 2 757-200s are both DOJ Gestapo birds, heading opposite directions of each other. So where they're going, don't know. But we'll keep an eye on them, see where they ended up going in our next SITREP, all right? And then that's a little Spec Ops bird, D328, there in the Panhandle. What you're looking at here on screen, those are intelligence balloons over Europe. And then this, another E3 Sentry, kind of over that ankle/heel bone of Italy. And then the rest of these are drones that are on our screen, okay? All right, let's jump over here to the Intel side of the house. Notice that is over kind of San Francisco area. Remember, Flashbang was just there, so that's probably why it's related. That's the last 72 hours. But look at this. Look at the amount. We've been talking about this. I'm telling you, Europe is, there's a lot of moving pieces going on over there right now. All the way up to Finland, all the way down south towards Romania and Bulgaria. And they're looking at right there, that's looking at Crimea very closely. Look at the layers on that one. So they got a lot of looks back and forth. And then notice the stuff down over Romania, low altitude Intel flights, okay? And then, of course, you've got this. That's going to be the Jordanians kind of flying that Israeli border. But notice they're looking very closely at the West Bank area, okay? All right, now this is going to be one of your mill Intel balloons. Notice they're not over the United States, but notice where this one is, which is a very out of the huge, out over the Atlantic. You got a broken stream there or a feed. And then notice this one too, up and down quite a few times, but then the broken feed on that where it just kind of starts to head kind of south west right here, right? So, what it's doing out there, I have no idea, but probably looking at ships in the water, if I had to guess. Okay, now here is, this is going to be your graybirds. Look at this weird traffic over the end. That tells me they've got a capability over Southern California that we aren't really familiar with. They're not just moving people, they're actually conducting some type of reconnaissance. Notice this one, out of Maui over to Oahu. Agency birds, right? These are guys that support the agency very closely. And then that's their hub coming out of Cartersville, Georgia. But you see a little bit of work there down off the same area where the D328s are operating, off the Panhandle of Florida. And then I was looking at Europe just out of curiosity. I don't see anything over there, so we'll just move on. All right, now let's talk drones since we're in Europe. A broken one. Notice that one's coming out of Malta, headed south. And it's just disappears on us. Broken trace. Same thing here. This is actually going to be another broken trace headed towards Turkey. High altitude, probably a Q9, Q4 drone towards the Black Sea. And then those ones down low over Turkey are the regular ones we see over, all the time. So, all right. Let's get away from that. Let's get into the news cycle. We'll cover the NOAA stuff, let that resonate for a few days, and then we'll come back and just kind of pull the thread and see if we've got any new data from our weather science guys, okay? All right, let's get into Flashbang. This is his docket for today. Looks like he gets out of bed and puts on his britches, which we all know may or may not really happen. But it's 10 a.m. around that time. It's an early to rise kind of guy. And this one, the big takeaway is this right here. All right. That's, I'm telling you, they're coming after him, folks. You better be paying close attention because they do it in these little incremental data grabs where they're going to pull information, on people that have licenses for certain things. And then they're going to basically compile it all, figure out where their biggest threat is. And those survey flights, don't think for a second they aren't working together with this. Remember, I shared some information that I got from a very reliable source not too long ago, and that is the fact that there was a conversation had with the ATF around suspending the Constitution in order to do a ghost gun grab. Okay, so pay attention to that, because they're going to try and get as many as they can. Believe me, they can't do what they need to do with what we have. Okay, so they have to do that. All right, let's move on. And this is an important data point for you. We talk about the draft. This is our main story we're going to talk about right now, and that is the fact that you may remember about a year ago, we talked about the fact that there was a Pentagon study that came out stating that 77% of young Americans would not even qualify for military service without a waiver, mainly due to being overweight, using drugs, or having mental or physical health issues. Okay, so that is a pool that they think they can pull from. But remember, I would imagine 75 of that 77% probably don't want to serve for this country anyway, because they have a lack of love for this country. They just want free stuff. That's all they care about. Okay, and so, but that is a big takeaway. It's a big data point. If you break it down into kind of the big hunks and chunks of this, it says when considering youth disqualified for one reason alone, the most prevalent disqualification rates are overweight. That means they're fat, okay? And they ain't gonna be able to even hold up to the minimum standards without somebody giving them a waiver, all right? And then the other part is, hey, drug and alcohol abuse, man. You know what? They like to vape on their doobies. So that is another big factor. And then, of course, the last one, the medical or the physical health issues, 7%. And that's actually Americans between the ages of 17 and 24. So I guess pay close attention to that. I guess the path to citizenship here is to take the 2 million immigrants that are coming across the border and sign them up for the military. At least you got a fighting force. The way it is right now, they're not going to have a lot of options other than the draft to fill this pool. Okay, they're going to have to bring them in and not allow them to basically have those waivers and force them to get into shape. So, all right, here it is. This is why I talk about that. Why I brought it up. Is the U.S. military laying the groundwork to reinstitute the draft? Yeah, it appears so. They're saying here that the most recent edition of the U.S. Army War College's academic journal pushed out a very disturbing essay, and based on military lessons or big takeaways from the continuing war in Ukraine. And they're saying, hey, look, a large-scale combat operation, troop requirements, well, they will require reconceptualizing the 1970 and 80s volunteer force and move toward a partial conscription, which is draft. Okay. Notice they said partial. It'll start out that way, but just like Vietnam, they're going to basically, as soon as the war goes hot, they're going to start enlisting people and pull them straight out of high school. And in those age ranges we just talked about, 17 to 24 is going to be kind of the bandwidth. So, you hit 18, you're off to the races. And that looks like the only way that we'll even get close to the numbers that we need to even fight a war. So, but the fact that most of the military branches today are actually having a very difficult time hitting their targets for monthly goals in terms of recruitment. The only one that's actually hitting it are the Marine Corps, and everybody else has fallen well short of it. So when that happens, they will not have any other solution to go to other than a draft. All right. And then here, this is just another data point for you. If you bundle it all together, check this out. The U.S. military has reached crisis levels of low recruitment. We just talked about that. At the same time, the American public's perception of the armed forces is increasingly divided. In a recent Gallup poll, 60% of respondents said they had confidence in the U.S. military. Only 60%, okay? The lowest level in over 2 decades. That is because of your current commander-in-chief. There's a very high lack of confidence when it comes to him, all right? And so But nonetheless, 60%, that means 40% of the United States that, if you just look at the sampling in the poll, don't really like our military right now. All right. Okay, let's move on. This is going to be the NOTAMs. Now, I was just talking a minute ago. We're going to back up a little bit. I'll come back to this in Hawaii. But I was just talking a minute ago about the R-135 that's out here. We saw the air refueler coming out and doing some air refueling here. Notice you've still got this. This has been there for a while. And notice the TFR right here. That is the Trump TFR. It has been reinstated. Mar-a-Lago right here over Palm Beach. It goes until May 31st, 2024, so all the way till next year. But wanted to point that out. That had gone away. It is back. I'm glad it's back. But again, they've got fighters out in this general area right now. All right. So let's look at the R-135. We were talking about that. Just notice the one that there's one over the center of the United States looking both sides. Hundreds of miles in either direction. But that one, that's a broken trace. That's where we were just talking about the air refuelers out here. Somewhere out near Puerto Rico or Cuba, they are definitely got eyes on stuff. And then look at this, again, over the same areas that they are looking very, very closely at what's going on in Europe. Now, it's important. Remember, Serbia has got a whole bunch of stuff mounted up at their border with Kosovo, and they think those two are about to go fisticuffs. And so we'll pay close attention to that. And then there's an R-135 coming out of Okinawa headed towards Japan, probably looking at North Korea. All right. Okay. So there's your NOTAM. The big things here, just notice this looks to be a lot of danger boxes off the East Coast. Remember, we saw the air refuelers out here. So there's something going on out that way. And then up this has been for a while, but it looks like they're trying to protect an area or a zone, and then this down to the southern border. The other big piece was down here in Hawaii. This is a security box. I don't know what it's tied to. This looks to be a launch box to the south and out here. It looks like they've got something going on out in this general region of Hawaii. And then, of course, you've got the stuff that's over this end of Lahaina. Right, that's a no-fly zone. They don't want any drones. They don't want anybody getting eyes on this area for some crazy reason. And then you've got this as well. And then this box out over this side towards Makaha and Third Dip, which would be a surf spot, by the way, because a lot of you are probably thinking right now, oh, what was he talking about, Third Dip? Okay. But anyway, looks like we've got some type of thing over the mountain range there that's restricted. Now we back it up. And let me just take a gander and see if we've got anything else. These big yellow streaks are high turbulence areas. So if you're flying out in this area, you're going to get bounced around a lot. In this area, going to be pretty bumpy. So if you're flying today and you're seeing this, or you just landed and you flew over this, you're probably shaking your head going, yep, okay. All right. And then let's see, a little bit of slop over the Atlantic. We get over to this side. I don't see anything that catches my eye other than you've got some boxes up here to the north of Russia, more here. Notice these two, all right? These look to be some type of danger tempo areas out here to the north of Russia in the Barents Sea. This is some slop right here with the yellow. And that's kind of the main thing. Look at Australia. You guys are getting really, really got a lot of wet weather off your coastline there coming in. Okay, moving on. Now, we are going to talk a little bit more about some of the Ukraine stuff and what's going on. We're going to talk a little bit more about Europe. I mentioned the October surprise. I think something is definitely afoot here, folks. But this right here, we mentioned this in the last SITREP. This is the area that has been fought over for over a year now, well over a year. And coming up, actually, I guess in February will be 2 years. But this is a zero-sum game. Nothing has moved. So all of the stuff that's happened, the amount of people that have been killed from a Ukraine perspective, as well as Russia, all for nothing. All right. The $150 billion that we've pumped into this country, all for nothing. Because this is exactly what it looked like when it all started. The only difference is the ground is all busted up because Ukraine has been popping off around 10,000 rounds. I want to say, was that a month? Yeah, I think that is a month. 10,000 rounds a month. And then Russia's been doing even more than that. So it is, they're going through more. Yeah, maybe that was a day. Anyway, nonetheless, they've been shooting like stormtroopers in this area for quite some time and going through all the artillery we have. And it's just not good, right? So, yeah, we'll just keep our eye on this piece of it. But let's get into the rest of the deets that go into all of this. Now, NATO is quietly fortifying the eastern border with F-16s and air defense systems. Well, they're getting that stuff from us. But as you get into the details of it, all the way up from Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, all the way down to the very bottom near Romania and Bulgaria, etc., we have been putting in missile defense systems. We've been putting in fighters and a whole bunch of other stuff. And that is a pretty good indicator, and maybe why we've been watching the intelligence flights over those areas, because something is either being matched or on the move on the other side of that when it comes to Russia, Belarus, and in the rest of the area and region. When you're starting to look in the up-tempo that we've seen from the intelligence community, that means there's stuff moving that they are very worried and concerned about. So keep your eye on that piece of it. And then let's move on over to this side. Ukraine gets bad news from 2 NATO allies. Well, one is the United States. They basically said, hey, we're going to pass the continuing resolution. And but within that, we don't approve any additional Ukraine spending. Somebody got smart for once. The other thing I will tell you is when you hear this whole, fight going on when it comes to continued funding and you think they're in there for you, let me tell you, what is really going on is this is that fog of war type of moment when stuff is getting passed that they'd never get it through any other way, and everybody's in a panic, and they just start pumping stuff in, and they're giving everybody all the stuff that they need and want, and we just stand here with our hands in our pockets watching it all go down and think, oh, our government's gonna shut down. And the reality is they're stealing us blind during those moments, right? You end up finding out later that there's all kinds of pork projects that, in order for this guy to buy off on it, you had to pass this for him. And of course, they don't do it because they don't make money off of it, right? Every bit of that is going in somebody's bank account somewhere downstream, okay? So just pay close attention, as always, just like the Ukraine stuff. All right, moving on. This one, I think this is a game changer. Now, this breaking, right? The British troops will be deployed to Ukraine for the first time under the new training program. And they're coming in under the guise of training. But the reality is this is not a good move. And as soon as they start to engage in combat, it is going to be Article 5 of NATO that has to be, well, it doesn't have to be, but it's supposed to be. The whole NATO theory of where we go one, we go all kind of thing, right? If you're the force or against us, if you take on one of us, then you take on the rest of us kind of deal. Well, guess what? Technically speaking, this could be the very mechanism that trips the wire, so to speak. And if UK gets pulled into it, then the United States is going to be right behind them. So again, pay close attention to that, because this right here could be the very catalyst that propels us into World War III. And as I was just saying, let's see. No, I don't want notifications. Let's close that out. But here it is. Putin's puppet warns British troops are targets. He's talking about the ones that are coming in for training and sparking World War III fears. And they're saying that NATO against more assistance to Ukraine. Top allies warn NATO against more assistance to Ukraine, claiming the alliance was actively pushing Russia towards a third world war. Now, it's not just this, but there are other aspects that are kind of tying into that. Germany is actually pushing in a missile system that is supposed to be not good. It's a long-range cruise missile. They say can hit from around 200 miles away or so. And so that's where the threat lies from Russia. But look at the response this is actually generating from the Russian side of the house. Russia is actually increasing their defense spending by almost 70% next year. So all of the stuff that we're seeing going on with, the NATO, United States, and their proxy war within Ukraine, they basically have, levied a response from Russia that, hey, we're now going to uptick our spending 70% increase. Okay. Now, what? Let me just show you this little data point for you. So their 70% increase comes to a total of 111.15 billion US dollars, or about 6% of their GDP. We have already sunk into Ukraine, just the United States alone, almost $150 billion. You could actually just about rebuild the whole country for the amount of money that we're all pumping into Ukraine. So, 111 billion is their total uptick, set by 70% for next year in terms of Russia, and we've already put 150 billion into Ukraine. So, just kind of level set things for you a little bit, but this tells you they're getting ready to go all in too, right? They're increasing everything, artillery manufacturing, their total spend. So pay attention to that. And then the other piece, just like we were talking about doing a draft, Russia is already doing it. And this one here, they're saying that they're going to draft another 130,000 men in this coming fall, which is now. Now, the interesting thing is they're saying these guys are not going to Ukraine. They're doing it for other reasons, which brings their total count for 2023 in terms of the draft to 277,000 soldiers. Now, you see all this stuff going on up and down the border with Ukraine, and then as you see it go further north into the Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, all the way up to Finland, and all of that traffic that's looking. My thought is that we probably have a lot of troops on the move in those areas on the eastern flank, and probably there may be some nukes in there too. Okay, and so we are watching all of it very, very, very closely. Okay, let's get over here to Biggs Army Airfield just to show you what's good on the move today. Notice it's got an Atlas Air and an Omni coming inbound. One's from Indy, one's from Baltimore. Headed outbound from there, it looks like the Atlas Air is headed to Melbourne, Florida. Skip that Orlando because that airport code is MLB. That is not Orlando. That's MCO. Omni, that's headed to Baltimore, Washington, and then this one here to Washington Dulles. 767-300s, which are going to be moving people. Now, what kind of people? Are they immigrants? Are they troops? It's to be determined. All right. Then you got a Sun Country coming in from Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska, Elmendorf, 737-800. That's probably, I want to say that's probably troops coming from the Air Force Base, but you just can't tell. All right. And then this is over to Dover. And just see, we've got this is going to be an Atlas Air 747 coming in from Chicago. Should be two of those. Let me see. There's the other one right here. And then this Amerijet coming in from Miami, 767-300. So if they are moving troops, then they are rotating some troops, and we've got a lot of stuff moving internally, probably a replan. We saw that they're getting ready to do a replan this fall for the 3,600 troops that just got deployed to Europe. Looks like they're going to rotate them out. Not adding new, supposedly, but just rotating. That may be what we're seeing here. These folks will probably get in process somewhere, either Dover or Biggs Army Airfield, and then launched, sent out from there. Okay, and then this is going to be Ramstein, Germany, and I don't know what that is. State Air Enterprise. Yeah, I don't know what that's tied to. There's your Atlas Air coming inbound, and then we go down. You've got this one coming out of Iceland. That is going to be a 767 camber flight. Headed to Iceland, and then this is headed to Mokatra, and that's going to be camber flight also. 747. So it really does look like we're starting to kind of reshuffle some assets in terms of where things are going. Could be because the battlefield is starting to change a little bit. And let's see. This is RZE Poland. I looked earlier on this board and I saw absolutely nothing, which is the first time I've seen absolutely nothing in quite some time. And see if it has changed at all. Yeah, I don't see anything on it. So we'll move on. Right. Here are your camber flights. This one's coming in from Ramstein, the other from Bahrain. And you can just see where they are outbound to. This is the one coming out of Bahrain. And then this is, I just want to click on this because I said Iceland. It's Turkey, sorry. Incirlik, Turkey. So it's going from Ramstein to Turkey. I don't know why I said Iceland. I knew that was Turkey, but I didn't say it. So I'm glad I looked at it. All right. Nothing on the board from, let's see. This is the UK. So they're down and out right now. 4 flights coming for national cargo. 3 of them out of the 4 are 747s. And then one of them here is Dias to Topeka. I'm thinking that's troops probably getting ready to exfil out of the United States. Topeka, Kansas is one of the locations, kind of like Biggs Army Airfield, where we process folks out of the country. And then last one here is Omni. Just notice it's coming out of Anchorage. It looks to be headed into Kadena Air Base. That is going to be Okinawa. And that is a 767-200. So it probably is about time for a little troop rotation. So that might be what we're seeing here. Okay, well, listen, that's going to do it for our SITREP today. So just continue to keep eyes on what's going on. Something is definitely afoot. I don't know what it is. You may have heard Trump mention in his rally the other day the fact that we are very close to World War III, closer than most people even realize. And that is a loaded statement because, he still has eyes on stuff that's going on, and he's very versed on the world. So just stay frosty out there and keep that powder dry, folks, because times, they are a-changing. All right, that's it. You guys be safe out there. We'll talk soon. God bless. Monkey out. Thanks for watching, folks. You can check out the latest gear and products by selecting the QR code on your screen now, or go to monkeywerxus.com.